Hey, this is Evan Mark Katz, dating coach for smart, strong, successful women, your personal trainer for love. Welcome back to the Love You podcast, a place you can learn everything you need to know about dating and relationships and sex and men and communication. And really, this is a one-stop shop for all of your needs. Um, I am in good spirits today, which is surprising because there's a lot of heaviness in the world. If you're reading the news, I've talked before about friends of mine who are facing some serious challenges in their life, and it's hard to not have that have an impact. But on a micro level, I've had a couple of really good days in a row, and I'm here with my friend Carol Allen. And so I'm just excited to get into our conversation, which is always eventful and fun. Before we get started, I just want to remind you, if you are a fan of the Love You podcast, please subscribe on Apple, subscribe on Spotify, leave us a positive review, leave us a comment, share with a friend. Good news is more and more people are discovering this podcast. We are close to nearly 3 million downloads since this podcast began. I'm getting guest spots on some really prominent podcasts where I will not mention it until I've actually appeared, but I'm doing some really neat things. And so the more you could spread the word that you can get some good common sense dating advice here, the more you could help out your friends. Now, I want to begin with Carol, because before we started rolling today, Carol was telling me about her weekend with her sister in Santa Barbara and some stuff that came up. And the topic was envy. And I think it's just a great place to begin because it impacts all of us. Carol.
Oh gosh. Well, first of all, I just have to say congratulations. I wish this was champagne. Cheers. Congratulations on 3 million downloads, or almost 3 million. Like, what the
I
what?
I owe it all to the fans.
That's
I would never,
amazing.
by the way, I would never say the word fan. That's so follower sounds even worse. Like I'm, like Jesus and I have disciples. But thank you for everybody who's ever listened or shared. So
It's all thanks to your apostles. Yes, it's all thanks to your
enough
apostles.
about enough. Seriously, enough about me.
Okay.
This topic of envy, where you look at
Yes.
someone else's life and
Yes.
you know at the half of it. Tell me the story.
Well, let me give you like the bigger backstory. So I'm an astrologer and a love coach like yourself. And what's been the greatest gift of my life in terms of my work has been having deeply intimate personal conversations one-on-one with people from all walks of life for over 30 years now, and finding out that it doesn't matter if you're British aristocracy as rich as like Bezos, or if you're a Utah housewife, we're all exactly the same. And we all tell ourselves total lies about who we should be and what we should have and what everyone else has that's better and what everyone else is thinking. And you like we're all the same. And so I don't envy anyone anymore. I'm not, I fully know that no one has it easy and that no one feels enough. No one. And I mean no one. Okay. So I was with my beautiful, wonderful sister over the weekend for her 60th celebration with friends from high school, and then some of her dearest friends from adulthood and her work, and she knows some very, very, very fancy people and some very successful women with like mega companies and seven-figure clients. And I mean, like,
Send it my way. My God.
yeah, yeah. And it was so sweet because before my sister was with us, she was with all these friends from high school who I haven't seen in 30 years. My sister's old good for 40 years, right? And it was so amazing to see people. Well, what inevitably happens in life, right? The great equalizer we call life, is you get to find out, like, like one of the people we grew up with has this like crazy giant mega $75,000 engagement ring, so beautiful, and lives in this gorgeous house. This other woman, her husband went to Harvard, blah, blah, blah. And throughout the few days, at one point or another, so many of them said things to me like, I wish I had what you have. And they meant with my husband. They said, I see how much fun you have. I see how much you love to do things together. I see all the places you go. my husband doesn't want to do that stuff, or my husband doesn't like those things, or my husband never travels with me, or my husband and I just don't enjoy the same things. And it was like this weird refrain. And I was like, oh wow, because I literally, you just have this idea that if people nobody is their Instagram posts. Like nobody. And it was just very sweet. It was very sweet. And it wasn't like I needed to hear that, but it was very touching. And it was also in a way kind of sad because doing what I do, people always confide in me. And a
Sure.
few of the women were actually pretty unhappy. One of the women had the cutest story of during the pandemic being lonely and being single and feeling like she couldn't go anywhere to meet anyone. So she was like, who can I recycle? Right. And she ended up marrying an old boyfriend.
Oh God, you just ruined the next bit that we're gonna do.
Well, I thought it might be a good segue
That,
into the
that, that was
next bit.
absolutely the worst possible segue because
Oh, well,
my
edit me
philosophy
out.
is
Take it away.
why you should absolutely not recycle boyfriends. So, um, there you go. The exception to the rule. I appreciate that, but envy, comparing yourself to others, right, is the enemy of contentment, right? That's the saying, and
Yeah.
it's
You want to be
impossible.
unhappy.
It's
Yes.
impossible not to do. You have to just catch yourself in the act of doing it. For
Yeah.
again, for you and I have known each other forever, and we've witnessed lots of things that go on. And how many times have we watched the meteoric rise of Matthew Hussey and be like, God damn that guy. But he's a good guy. I got nothing but good things to say about him.
Yeah.
And he just he
Right.
I feel like Hillary Clinton and he's Barack Obama, and he just went whoo.
And you're like, I've been here so much longer. I've been
Years.
working so much harder.
No,
Yes.
but truly,
Yeah.
and then if you listen to him or follow any of his stuff, he got caught up in his cult of celebrity and
Yeah.
having too many options and making
Yeah.
mistakes. And I remember the last time I was out to dinner with him, and this is true. This is funny actually. We were out to dinner on Ventura Boulevard, and his star was already rising and mine was already falling. So we were out to dinner and like a couple people came up to him. Nobody came up to me. Um, no,
Oh.
but that wasn't the point of the story. The point of the story, he goes, I would do anything to have what you have. Like you have a wife that you clearly adore. You have two kids that you like and they like you. And like I grew up in this upper middle class family, and we all really, really like each other. That's why we work together. And all I want is to be able to recreate that.
Mm.
And I'm out, speaking on stage. And I guess that's that's when I think of anybody in the world that I envy, it's someone professionally. Because
Yeah,
personally,
for
like you, I was
sure.
like, I made some really bad mistakes in my 20s and made much better choices in my 30s. And those decisions continue to play out over time,
Yeah.
especially when you or your partner goes through crisis. You realize how very lucky you are to
Mm.
be with your best friend. And
Right.
every time, I don't know about you, because your party going is different than my party going, but I know that our little internal trick for when we go to parties is we come home from the party and be like, whew, aren't we the best couple? Now, it's not true. There's no factual basis. It is we really appreciate it. Could you imagine being married to this person who's invariably our friend? Right? How lucky are we to go home with each other and largely be on the same page?
Yeah.
And so I just think the relationship
Yeah.
piece, the thing that we do, is
Yeah.
the neglected piece because there's so much about consumption and the perfect body and the perfect house and the
And the perfect ring. And yeah, yeah, yeah.
right. So
Right.
if you just have a
And the
relationship,
best car.
right, and also, and I think even more for women than men, the husband you could show off to other people.
Haha.
Look at the man I landed. Look at how
Right.
impressive he is.
Yeah.
I think there's women have even more of that than men do. What do you think?
Sure. Who can say, right? But I'm in the world of women more than the world of men. And I think they say women dress for other women, not really for men. And we certainly evaluate each other a lot, and I have the friends that do the backhand compliment thing, like honey, your hair would look so much better if, you know what I mean? Or honey, you're so cute when you wear this kind of thing. I want to make you over and help you get dressed like that more. Like, right? And so
I don't even, yeah, that's barely backhanded.
it's
That's actually that's
it's
just a
more
backhand.
fully like
That's
kish, kish, kish.
There's not really a compliment as opposed to this is all wrong.
So I've gotten way more of that from women than men in my
Yeah.
life, and yeah. So yeah. So who the heck knows, right? But I do think we're all tribal, primal, lizard-brained people trying to have high status so the group will accept us, so that we'll survive on the tundra at the end of the day. Can I tell a quick Matthew Hussey story of my own?
Sure.
I interviewed him one time. He and I, were very friendly way in the beginning of his career. And I interviewed him one time, and then I needed to drive him to CAA where he was signing, right? Where he was
As
becoming
one
like
does. Yeah.
mega. Yeah. So I took him in my like kind of beater. What was it? It was like a Jetta GLI. It was like a beater car. Pick him up in my beater car, take him in my beater car. The car proceeds to break down. Okay, like it totally dies. And and Matthew Hussey, you could tell he was so like horrified. He like went off to his meeting, and I was literally stuck in front of CAA. I couldn't move, and I had to have AAA. I mean, it was so hilarious, and never saw him again. But anyway,
It's strange. After that date
stop
where I
taking
forgot
my texts. Yes.
after the date where I forgot my wallet, she never wanted to see me again on that date
So
where I forgot
weird.
my wallet.
So weird.
Strange.
So weird. Yeah.
Well, again, it's true. I don't have anything. I don't actually have anything but good things to say about him, and I'm happy for him and success and the number of people he's helping. But again, I will absolutely admit to a case of envy, and then I don't know what it's like to live his life. Maybe having
Yeah.
50 people working for you is a lot of pressure. Maybe being in the public eye is a lot of pressure. Like, I don't
Yeah.
really know.
Right. Well, I don't. Let's call him, shall we? I still have his number. We could
That,
try it. I'm sure you do too.
he won't return the call. Um, so strangely, that was our intro. Welcome
Oh,
back. Love you.
very
Podcast.
strangely.
We did a last minute change of topic. We had something
Yes.
that I thought was relevant that
We'll
we're
do
just
it next time. We'll do it
yeah.
next time.
It's an these are all the great thing about dating and relationships is that they're evergreen topics. It's why we could talk about them for 20 years
And universal. Yeah.
it's still an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm going to briefly share a story. Again, I don't want to out anybody. I know you don't want to out anybody, but yesterday I had a conversation with a former client, who, if she's listening, will recognize herself. So apologies in advance, but she, like me, is sort of a New York liberal, if you're for lack of a better term. After taking Love U, she opened up her options. She learned to choose men of high character who treated her well, who made her feel safe, heard, and understood. Got into a relationship with a Republican. They've been together for a couple of years. And again, this could be anybody. There's no more identifying information. And they're trying to figure out next steps, but they're voting for different teams. And when they talk about it, they try to be respectful. He's probably even more respectful than she is, right? And they share information, right? Here's my information on climate science. Here's my information on the climate denier. Here's my information on why the election was stolen. Here's my information on why the election wasn't stolen.
Yeah.
And again, we committed to largely playing things neutral here.
Yes.
So we got on the phone, and I had to kind of use all my powers of devil's advocacy.
Yeah.
To make it clear that the hardest thing in the world to find is someone who is high character and treats you well. The problem is we're in an ecosystem where Democrats demonize Republicans, and Republicans demonize Democrats as
Yeah.
other, as
Uh-huh.
low character, as bad people, as people who hate
As
America.
destroying democracy. Yeah.
Right. Some of
Right.
that is going to seep in, and then
Yeah.
you start to associate the other party
Right.
with worse values. And
Yeah.
so I took a scenic route. I'm trying
And
to do,
bad intentions. Bad
and
intentions.
I'm
Right.
trying to accelerate it so it's not like a filibuster here today. But I made the observation that religion has become the new politics. Sorry,
Mm.
politics has become the new religion. I misspoke. Politics has become the new religion,
Uh-huh.
and that we all know that there are people who are good Christian values, who believe every word of the Bible, who aren't necessarily good people. And there are people who've never been to the
Yeah.
inside of the church who are amazing people.
Yeah.
So it's really, how does someone show up in the real world, not what do they believe, believing the right or wrong thing. None of us can ever prove that we're right and wrong in our beliefs. It is
Right.
how does this person treat me? How does this person make me feel? As
Mm-hmm.
opposed to, I'm going to spend my time convincing them their beliefs are wrong. And I say this as the guy who married a woman who went to 12 years of 16 years of Catholic school. She would correct me. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to let you get your word in, and we'll do more dialogue than monologue from now on.
No, but listen, it's a huge topic and it's so in the zeitgeist, and it's been so in the zeitgeist really forever, but especially since 2015, right? Especially since Trump came on the scene and everything became so heightened, and we have social media that's putting us into our own little bubbles and our own, to quote you, echo chambers, and where, you know, we can instantly share information and we have access to information, and there's all sorts of alternative media now, and you know, and so I love how you're saying, how do people show up? How do they behave? Who are they being for you? And how about you go with that? I've always been so moved by my extended family because I'm an astrologer, as I said. And OG, if you read the Bible, there's all these quotes about astrology being evil and astrologers need to burn forever. Okay. And it's like
I had
of the
no
devil.
idea.
Oh, dude, it is so bad. Deuteronomy.
A, because I don't read the Bible. B, because I know nothing about astrology. I would have no
Yeah,
information about that.
yeah. So it's pretty like classified as working for Beelzebub. Okay. Like I'm on the wrong team as an
Wow.
astrologer. And all of my extended family are very, very, very Christian. And what's always really touched my heart is they are so welcoming to me. When I show up where they are, 20 people show up for lunch. Like they act like I'm visiting royalty, you know. They offer their houses. They invite me to all their weddings and birthday parties, and they are so supportive. And years passed, I kept waiting, like, when is somebody going to say something? When is somebody going to say something? And finally one day, one of my cousins, we had a long car ride and he brought it up, and instead of getting upset with him, I was like, what took you so long? Don't you care about my soul? Right? Like I was like, I was happy he had the courage so that we could have that meet in the middle conversation, which it ended up being. I got to remind him that the three wise men were astrologers and that they saw that a king would be born and la 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 la, right? And that Jesus actually said there will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars.
You do not have
So
to.
so my point being, that what I wish for everyone is that they could make being in it like an example of the love you profess you believe in, right? And the character you profess you believe in, and the kind of America you want, right? We all want to be happy. We all want our families to thrive, right? If you could be an example of that. And I am deeply passionate about world events and politics and all those things. And I'm not going to give any election, any candidate, anybody, my cousins or my uncles or my, like, I am not going to let any world event steal the people I care about. And if they believe differently than me, you know, I like leaning in and learning, because I will tell you, people on the other side, they have valid points. They do. You're not going to want to hear them, and you're
Well,
going to tell them they're
that,
wrong.
that's where we get into the idea of perspective
Yeah.
right? And so, and this is heady thinking, right? So we can simultaneously, and again, I'm going to be try to be general. We could say uh, Trump has an iffy relationship with the truth, but just
Yes.
because he says something
Uh-huh.
doesn't mean it's wrong about too much immigration or China or whatever or
Right.
the working class white people or whatever. Just because he says it doesn't mean it's inherently wrong. He's not. I don't think he's a great messenger that is going to unite the country. But yes, someone who believes in God, family, country, and that's their ethos is
Yeah.
not necessarily going to agree with me. But they're entitled to do what they want to do on their land, and and pray how
Yeah.
they want and shoot how they want or whatever it is. The world is absolutely big enough for all of it. And the problem is now, because of the internet and
Mm.
social media, not only do we find ourselves in bubbles and echo chambers, right? But we also discover stuff that we didn't used to know about our neighbors. You just go over and borrow a cup
Yeah.
of sugar. Now we know all of their beliefs, which we think are crazy, and they know
Yeah.
your beliefs, which they think are crazy. So it's
Yeah.
almost sort of too much information that's not really based on, is this a good neighbor? Is this a good partner? It's
Hmm.
finding yourself in lockstep, and any one thing could send you running in the other direction. And that's sort of where we're at. Any one thing could send someone running in the other direction.
Yeah, and it's not just romantically, right? I mean, friendships are ending, families are splitting up, and this is where I think it's very sad, right? Because for me, my litmus test is always, is their heart good? Do they have good intentions? Or is it that they really don't care about things that affect other people, right? Because some people, their agenda with politics or world events is very much about, well, that's going to benefit me and the people I care about, and that's all I care about.
Right.
And those people I don't have a lot of room for,
Right.
right?
But even so, those people, because I had this
Yeah.
conversation with I mean, again, one of Bridget's friend's husband, who's a Republican donor, you
Uh-huh.
know, fundraiser, and we were talking about the election thing, and I was
Yeah.
like, that to me, the democracy thing is particularly disqualifying. He's like, I don't think it was as big a deal as you think it is, and I'm kind of voting
Uh,
on my wallet. And the red tape in
right.
California, if you're trying to buy an office building, and he was, and if
Yeah.
you have to provide Obamacare to all your employees, and he was,
Yeah.
that affects me more. And he's voting
And if
policy,
minimum wage is going up and I have
right?
to
And
pay everybody, yeah.
right, and so
Right.
he's
Right.
voting through his lens.
Yeah.
I disagree with what we weigh things on.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's hard not to get into policy specifics because it is
Yeah.
important, but I think it's mostly due to a lack of understanding and validating other people's perspectives. I have a cousin who thinks just like I do. Like,
Yeah.
we are in lockstep on everything. He switched to the other team for one
Yeah.
issue. And again, I'm not
Right.
trying to get into the comments on YouTube. He switched because of Israel. That's it,
Yeah.
right? Just the fact
Yeah.
that Republicans completely support Israel and Democrats kind of half support Israel.
Yeah.
And his daughter has faced anti-Semitism at her grad program.
Ugh.
And the pain it's caused her to be
Yeah.
a Jewish girl in Michigan has
Hmm.
literally flipped him to vote for someone that he despises.
Yeah.
He's more worried, and this is emotional now.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
about Jewish people surviving
Yeah.
than democracy surviving. And
Right.
we got into it for like an hour and talking back and forth, and we are two guys who agree on everything. And
Right.
if that can be the case, we're two
Right.
guys who love each other and agree on everything, could
Uh-huh.
find themselves canceling each other out. Now imagine people who have real disagreements learning
Yeah.
to respect each
Great
other.
point.
And so I think that's the hard part. This is so emotional, and people
Uh-huh.
are emotional, not rational.
Yeah. Well, and it really comes down to like, what do you need? What do you require? Like, do you need to be with people who you can talk about all this stuff with? You can get it, you can become an activist who like you want to celebrate and support and do all this with someone, right? Or can you separate it out? My parents, my mother was a bleeding heart liberal, and my father was a Wall Street Journal reading, Bohemian Club attending,
Yeah.
Republican. And it became the only thing they couldn't talk about. And the only time I ever saw them have an argument, to the point where my mother threw a glass at my father and his forehead was bleeding, swear to God. It became the only thing they couldn't talk about, and they just created agreements around it. And they just knew that every election they were just negating each other's vote.
And so that brings up, because again,
Back to your client.
We could do this for an hour.
Yeah, back to your client. What's the priority?
It brings up an important question, at least as far as I'm concerned. My value personally is self-expression, right? Like,
yes, me too.
Being totally myself, letting it all hang out. That's why I became a screenwriter.
Sharing it with the world.
That's why I made up this job. I like being fully self-expressed instead of having to keep secret. My wife knows everybody I've ever slept with. No, she doesn't. But you get the idea. Like, but we're a no secrets family, and we like it that way.
Love it.
There's nothing's buried, everything. So no simmering resentments. No, oh my God, I can't believe you never told me.
No taboo topics.
So that's the relationship that I've built. It's also a relationship that I preach, and I think other people should have. And now I've got a client who has an amazing boyfriend, and she's going to have to wall off.
Yeah.
Might be an important part to her.
Right.
And she wants to know, will I be content for the rest of my life if I have to compartmentalize that? And I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah. She's going to have to find out, it's funny. Back to my sister. My sister did the Freudian thing, and she's a bleeding heart liberal, married a Wall Street Journal reading Republican, just like dear old mom and dad. And her first husband, they agreed on everything. They ate the same way, voted the same way, slept under like a pyramid, each had crystals in their pocket. They were total hippy dippy woo-woos together. And he didn't behave well.
Yeah.
And I'll spare you the details. She was not happy. She had a lot of happiness, but it was not a peaceful life. And now she has such a peaceful life. And he is such a more aligned human being in terms of values, character, behavior. She's so much safer emotionally, has such a better quality of life. And what's been great about them is they've respected each other's choices, and they've kind of educated each other about each other's points of view. Yeah. They can watch like the Daily Show together and laugh. And he will say things like, Obama is brilliant, I just don't agree with his policies, right? Like, so there was enough like give and take and healthy expression and respected expression that she could do it.
Got it.
If it weren't like that, if it was like, I've had friends date somebody across the aisle, right, who like goads them and like pushes at them.
Well,
and gets very like finger waggy and gets very like, and what are you supposed to do with that?
That's a real hard part, Carol.
No fun.
Because there's a difference between I believe in higher taxes, I believe in lower taxes, I believe in border control.
Right.
The thing we're dealing with, and again, I don't even know where to begin because it's the internet. We're in a choose your own adventure reality. We don't even agree on
what is the reality,
on what's real. So then how can we even have an engaging discussion about it? So I think that's the hard part is I don't know that I'd be able to deal with someone who is past moderate, right? Like my wife and I might have straddled those things. She grew up, San Diego Republican, Christian, and I grew up with pretty much, my parents didn't tell me anything. And so I don't know. I think you want to share some sort of reality. And at the same time I'm saying that, I'm realizing that would theoretically negate our relationship because we don't share the same reality. And that's stupid. Like, isn't like that's,
well,
like I'm saying it and I'm regretting saying it while I'm saying it.
I think we share enough of the same reality. So, but for anyone wondering what the hell you just met, I am a little more of an outlier in a lot of areas. So, I mean, hello, I'm a Vedic astrologer, and that's like nutty.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to be mainstream, if anyone's wondering, like at all. even though I went to mainstream schools and I grew up with,
Right.
the picket fence and the suburban childhood and all that
But
stuff.
that's the thing
Yeah.
is I know you for who you are as a
Yeah.
person. And so I'm trying to give advice and I'm not even sure the advice that I'm giving because I could say in one breath, this shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't. I think if you take it like a religion, I believe in this, I believe in this, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
It's actually when the religions start to conflict
Right.
that it becomes a problem. Like
Well,
if someone's anti-vax and someone's for vax and they
yeah.
don't know what to do with their kid, that might turn into a real problem.
Right. Sure. Well, and that's where, these things aren't just about beliefs, right? They're about like how we want the world to be. And, whoever gets in office is going to affect the future and affect how we all live. So politics isn't just a belief thing, right? Um, but I think, when I was in school, I studied how to have critical thinking, right? And, one of the people we studied was Noam Chomsky. And he said, in politics, each side demonizes, each side, it becomes the good and evil story always. And it's always like, we're the good guys, they're the bad guys. We're going to create paradise, they're going to take us to hell. And so as soon as I start to hear that, because he always says, question that, like, be careful. That's the kind of rhetoric that gets us into war. That's the
Right.
kind of rhetoric that creates, this willingness to turn on each other.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, people in high positions like it when we're turning on each other because we're very distracted by our differences, right? But then other things are happening over here, right? So we just have to be careful. And my biggest advice to people when they say like, oh, I'm dating a guy who's different is like, trust yourself. How do you feel? We can't decide for anyone, is this okay or not? It's a very case by case personal thing. I was vegan when I met my barbecuing Texas husband, and I had vegan friends that could have never done that. But I never lectured him. He never lectured me. He always barbecued me corn and potatoes. I just said, sorry, I'm never going to buy it for you or make it for you. And the man has never had a pot roast in his own home. And he doesn't care. And he really thanked me 2 years into being in a relationship. He said, you've never lectured me. And I said, you're kind of a big boy. You're an adult. And what you put into your body is your business. And I have shared with you why I do what I do. And oh, by the way, 30 years later, he started eating the way I do because he had high blood pressure and high cholesterol. And now he doesn't with no meds. And his doctors were amazed. So I wore him down, but it took 30 years and his own body betraying him. But yeah, so it would have been a shame to miss out on him because just like your beautiful teachings, when we marry a list of resume items about a person, how tall they are, how old they are, what they drive, etc., and we don't make it about the character and the quality of the relationship, you can look for the world over forever and never find that person.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, back to your main teaching, which is so powerful.
Yeah. I just, people come for clarity. And sometimes what we do is try to take something that's really complicated and simplify it.
Yeah.
I think that has great value. I think this is one of the things that remains personal, where it becomes a lot harder to sort of top down say, here's the thing you can do if you're looking for a rule. Right. As I said, if you're looking for a rule, don't recycle your exes. There's a reason you broke up. That doesn't mean that exes, because I can tell you a bunch of them, can't break up, get back together again.
Yes.
But there's usually the combination that broke you up the first time, his personality traits and your personality traits and his
Yes.
character and your character. There's a reason that broke up. That
Yes.
should probably be respected. And it's just as easy to find a new person who hasn't broken your heart before and hasn't disappointed you as it is to double down on the previous mistake. So I believe in that, even though I can
Yeah.
always acknowledge there's exceptions to everything we're saying here.
Like OG.
Right.
My husband was an old boyfriend. And what I always tell people is if you're going to get back together, no, to your point, it will be exactly the same. Like they will be exactly who they are. You will be exactly who you are. And in my case, he was my first adult relationship. And I needed to be out on the marketplace for a while. I needed to sample the other product. I just did. I needed to sow my oats. And I just wasn't ready. He was ready to get married and I wasn't. So we broke up for
Right.
4 years.
So that was more a matter of
It was,
timing rather than
yes.
compatibility.
But it's funny, back to Matthew Hussey, just like you, he says, right guy, wrong time doesn't exist. If it's the right guy, part of what makes it the right guy is the timing works out. And I wish I could wholeheartedly agree with that,
I
but
don't agree
I
with that.
don't.
I don't agree with that.
My husband was the right guy at the wrong time. And
If
yeah,
I met my wife 2 years earlier, no.
yeah.
2 years later, no. That right. 2 years earlier, I was in my oat sowing phase. 2 years later, she'd have
She would
been
have been too old to have
too old
kids.
to have kids.
Yeah,
Right. So we only could have met at that time. And the
yeah,
alternate universe where that doesn't happen, I have a different wife and like
yeah,
it's unfathomable. So I think timing has a lot to do with things, which is why
yes,
we don't need to talk ourselves into how do I make this work if
yeah.
your guy isn't ready for you now in his current form. Don't
Just
hold the
don't be on
torch.
a shelf. Yeah, don't
Yeah,
be on a
don't
shelf.
hold the torch for him and wait for him to come back. So
Now.
that brings us to we're gonna cut to small wins. Um,
Okay.
uh, had a conversation with a client yesterday, and a small win for everybody here who might be new here is one tiny thing that you did right in your love life this week, because turning a
Mm,
whole love life around is based on small wins. You don't just say, I'm going to go find my husband, order him in on Amazon. It's a series of choices, empowered choices to how you date, how you communicate, how you relate to men, how you see the world. So I have a client who is 70 and she's never been married before and carries a lot of baggage that comes with that. And was seeing a guy for 6 weeks or something like that, and it was casual in that they never committed to each other, they never slept together. She's pretty inexperienced in matters of the heart, and she said and did some things that pushed him away.
mm.
And he said, I can't do this. And then he came back later to say, we could still be friends. And she's in the, so there's a chance. So there's
Oh,
a chance. So there's a chance. And she saw he was online and she got really upset. And she, would text him to like really just very, very, can we make this happen? And it's because she's operating from a place of scarcity.
yeah.
This non-relationship might be the best thing that's happened to her in a long
He's
time.
the only man in the world. Yeah.
And he's right in Love You, we say he's not the last man on earth, but for her, it feels like the last man on earth. So in our coaching call, we were able to reframe that for her so that she realized, oh, I'm treating this guy like I'm losing a husband who's divorcing me. I've literally never been exclusive with him, never been his girlfriend, never slept with him.
Yeah.
And maybe the fact that this thing blew up in 6 weeks is a good indicator that you're not right for each other, or neither of you is ready for this. And is it possible that a friendship could blossom into something? Yes. But trying to force, because she's talking about how are we going to deal with our finances, right? And this is where people's minds
Wait,
go is
what?
right. It's cutting to the end, trying to read the last page of the book. So we had a really productive
Oh,
conversation yesterday because she's got the dating experience of someone in her teens.
mm,
She just leapt ahead, and hopefully
mm,
he's going to at least be able to cultivate a friendship, which is one of the ancillary benefits of online dating, is that there's really nice people who
yeah.
you might not be compatible with, you might not be attracted to, you might have met them at the wrong time, but that's okay. That's still an added benefit. So probably that's a
Mm,
very long, small win, but I felt like it deserved a little bit of context. Any good things from your clients this week, Carol?
gosh, that's a great story. Oh boy. Well, I have been in a cave for a lot of years doing retreats and coaching and writing and creating programs and blah, blah, blah. And I've only just started giving readings again. And so I've been reconnecting with clients from like, oh my gosh, 2008, 2012, like people I haven't talked to in over a decade. And it's been so beautiful to hear from them how things I told them over a decade ago have been echoing down the ages for them.
Yes.
One woman yesterday shared with me that in 2008, I told her a man she was seeing that she was super struggling with and
Sure.
hung up on. She said, I just simply said, I'm so sorry, he's just not the one. And that making it so like down to its bare bones like that took so much pain and anguish out of it for her, and she still saw it through. But when it didn't work out, instead of doing that rabbit wheel of like, I blew it, I screwed up, I did something wrong, she was had a lot more peace. And it was so sweet to hear that all these years later. So I've
Right.
been having a lot of sweet conversations like that.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
yeah, it makes me want to tell more stories. But the story I ended up telling was functionally the same story that I told, is that
Yeah.
there's a great relief in closing the door on something that's not working,
Yeah.
right? And forgiving yourself for that, because it has generally very little to do with you. It has much more to do with him or timing than it has
Yeah.
to do with you being rejected as an individual.
Or the combination of the two of you, because
Yeah.
there's like this third thing created between you. You might be great, they might be great, but then you both create this vehicle that you go somewhere in. And sometimes it's out of gas, and sometimes the fuel injection system is broken, and sometimes,
Yeah, it looks really nice as a car, but it's sputtering along.
yeah,
And I think that's most relationships, which is why we talk about feelings and ease and comfort as,
yeah,
and a lack of anxiety being a marker of a relationship, right? If you're with a guy and he's the most amazing guy you've ever met and you're anxious all the time, are you really happy? Right? For a lot of people, they'll tell themselves they're happy because their guy's so great, but inside they're all torn up. And again, I
yeah.
think the thing that you know and the thing that I know is, you when you're with the person you're going to travel through life with, that's just like one thing you don't have to think about each day. Like that's as solid as the floor you're walking on.
Hope so. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then other than that, this is my our 27th wedding anniversary is Saturday. Whoop whoop. So I'm just trying to be grateful and soak it all up. And yeah.
Congratulations to you. It is an accomplishment. And I know you guys as individuals and as a couple, and look at you with pride, not envy.
No.
Um, and think genuinely that if I were to assign anybody who's listening to this a little bit of homework, go talk to your friends who are happily married, not just married, the friends who are happily married,
Mm,
and just ask them a couple questions. I ask people to do this and Love You, but ask them what what works and what they're compromising on in order to make that relationship work. And
yeah.
it might surprise you. Um, uh, and yeah, let's circle back to that the next time we talk, because I think that's actually doable and constructive. Everybody should have at least one happily married friend that they could ask a real question about.
Yeah, because you know what? We're not bragging to you because we don't want to make you feel bad. So a lot of the time when people say, I don't know anyone happily married, and my friends that are married sure don't talk about how happy they are. And it's because we don't want to make you feel bad. So we bitch about the bad stuff so that we can do the connecting with you thing. But then we don't tell you the great stuff. Seriously. Don't you find? I
Um,
think so.
I think there's definitely a perception. Actually, to extend this, I can't help myself. People who have been single for a really long period of time often feel a sense of shame or embarrassment about it. It could be its own podcast, but they feel more judged by
Yes.
society and married
Yeah.
people than they're actually being judged, right? It's far more in their head, right? And if anything, married people are more like, I really want for you to have what I have, but I don't judge you for not having it. Um, uh, and yeah, that's another topic for another day. In the
Yes.
meantime, because we could do this forever,
Ah.
my name is Evan Mark Katz. My friend is Carol Allen. You can find her at loveisinthestars.com, literally in the stars. If you are looking for a relationship that makes you feel safe, heard, and understood, if you are struggling with your broken man picker, if you are wondering why it's such a jungle out there, and you go online and it seems like there's nobody. There are good people. It's not always easy to figure out how to get them to the surface. That's exactly what I do for a living, is I help you navigate a really tricky space. So go to evanmarkkatz.com/now and fill out a short application to talk to me on the phone, and we'll get you started. I really can't wait to our next conversation. I want to thank Carol for being a part of the Love You
Thank
podcast.
you.
Everybody have a great night, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.